Welcome to Around the Kitchen Table. My name is Rochelle. I am a certified herbalist and the owner and founder of HappiHerbs, and I am with April, who is a registered nurse and the co-host of Around the Kitchen Table. And today we are going to be doing a parasite podcast part 2. So we do have a part 1, but I feel like there is more to discuss that we didn't get into. Otherwise, it would have been a really long podcast. So let's get into it. So I wanted to talk about the different types of symptoms that people experience when they have parasites, because people will come to me all the time and be like, my child has dark circles under their eyes. Does that mean that they have a parasite? Or, I'm experiencing this type of gut issue. Does that mean I have a parasite? I'm low in iron. Does that mean I have a parasite? And the reality is, I don't know. Because dark circles could also mean low in iron, right? Which, it could mean a parasite and you could get tested. But the reality is, in the medical field, they can only test for a certain amount of parasites.
Yeah, we don't test for everything. It depends on the method of testing. It depends what they're looking for, but it's not fully comprehensive, which is kind of the sad part.
Well, it is the sad part, right? Because there are a lot of people who live with parasites and they've gotten all the tests done and they don't even know they're living with parasites. They didn't even know they were living with parasites. And they end up finding, a holistic doctor and figuring out what that root is. And they're upset because they're like, I tested for this and it came out clear. So the reality is, if you are having strange symptoms, the best way to know if you have a parasite is to do a parasite cleanse, because we need to be doing it anyways. It's not some foreign thing that we should only be doing if we know 100% that we have a parasite. We should be parasite cleansing 3 times a year, if not weekly.
And in some cultures, they do. I think it was South Korea does, I don't know if it's 3 times a year or twice a year, but they very commonly do parasite cleanses. In Colombia, they do parasite cleanses. Historically, Indigenous Canadians have done parasite cleanses with every season change. It is something that we should be doing.
Absolutely. Me and my family parasite cleanse weekly.
And even if you don't have symptoms, because there are some parasites that you don't have symptoms for. There's a really common one. It's called trick. I won't say the long name because it's really complicated. It's like trichomonacius, something like this. I can never say it. It's common, and 80% of people don't have symptoms. It's really important when you're pregnant. They usually swab you for it and test you for it because you can pass it to your baby. It can get in your baby's brain, but 80% of people don't have symptoms.
Yeah.
And the first symptom that they might realize is that they're infertile because that parasite can move right up into your fallopian tube. So parasites are scary things.
I feel like when people think of parasites, they think of that parasites being in their stomach. And the reality is, parasites can go behind the eyes, they can go in the brain, they can go in the fallopian tube, they can go anywhere in the body.
They can move around, and some have their preferred places that they like to live, but some will move around, and depending how long they're there, they can move.
Yeah. It's disturbing. And so we need to be doing it quite often, not just when we feel crappy, but when we feel crappy, we definitely need to be doing a parasite cleanse. Because if you have some sort of issue, some sort of ailment that's going on, it is very likely that you are also going to have a parasite accompanying that, because parasites go to the weakest part of the body. If you are weak, they are going to start to multiply because we're exposed to them every single day. You can't avoid it. And so if you're sick, your body's not going to be able to fight those parasites that you're exposed to every single day. And then that's when they start to accumulate. And that's why it's important, to be preventative and to be healthy. And I think a lot of people don't realize all the different ways that you can actually get parasites. And of course, you can get them, from person to person and saliva, but also from walking barefoot. And it's not to say don't walk barefoot. It's great to ground. And if you're healthy, you're going to cycle those through, but parasites can come in through the skin, right? We can get it from undercooked meats.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. A lot of more dangerous ones can come from undercooked meats. We can get them from our fruits and vegetables, from not washing them, from gardening, from dirty water,
from our pets.
Pets is a big one. And even pools. like
It's like any open body of water.
yeah, right?
Right?
Well, people assume that if you're going to any sort of like water park or pool because there's all this chlorine that everything is clean, and that's just not the reality
No.
because there's other ways, if you're walking barefoot through a water park, all that stagnant water, all the other feet that are touching that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wear your flip-flops, guys.
Where I'm like, oh. Yeah, I actually went swimming last summer. Someone invited us swimming, and they weren't home. And as gracious as that was, we got there, and I looked in the water, and it was like not clean. There was just a lot of floaties on top, and my husband was like, "Okay, we're gonna go in." I'm like, "We're not getting in that water."
Yeah, no.
I'm like, "The kids are gonna drink that accidentally. That's gonna be a problem. That water, like." You got to be really mindful, and you don't want to be paranoid, but you want to be mindful. And a lot of the times we think that if we smell the smell of chlorine, that means that there's a lot of chlorine, but it actually means it's lacking chlorine because chlorine shouldn't have a smell. You shouldn't smell chlorine in a swimming pool. It's when you start to smell it is when you know there's not enough. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you ever go to a public pool and it smells like chlorine, that's a dirty pool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm always hesitant with that. Like you shouldn't smell it. Right. And I had a pool
Yes.
for many years, and it never smelled like chlorine. It was always clean. Right. But you go to these public pools and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, which most people would assume, they're just dumping more, but that's not always the case.
Nope. You got everyone peeing in there. You got God knows what's going on.
Oh, you know what? For the longest time, I did not know that people peed in pools. I didn't know it was a thing. My parents, when I was little, they told me if you peed in the pool, it would turn green and everyone would know. So I never peed in the pool. I think I didn't realize until I was, 19, and I went to Mexico for the first time. And my friend I went with made a comment saying, "Oh, we're not going to go in that pool because those people are sitting at the bar peeing in it all day." And I said, "Well, what do you mean? They can't be because the water would be green around them." And he started laughing so hard and told me, "No, that was a little white lie. My parents told me to keep me from peeing in the pool, which thank goodness they did."
Mine was a red circle, that if you peed in the pool, like a red circle would go around you and identify you, and you'd be like, caught.
But apparently some people were never taught that, and there's people who will pee in the pool because they're too lazy to get out.
Tons of people pee in the pool, and kids especially will pee in the pool.
Well, kids is different.
My kids are good. Like they'll be like, I have to pee. They don't want to pee in the pool. They're like, they feel weird about it.
Good.
If they're in the ocean, I feel like they might, but in like pools, not so much.
Yeah, pool's different. I feel like pool's different.
Obviously, it's different. You guys don't pee in pools,
please don't. You're ruining it for all of us.
So yeah, be mindful with that. And I think another thing that people miss when it comes to parasites is the cravings that the parasites can give you. And people always assume that it's bad cravings, but it can actually be cravings for good things. There's on my website, HappiHerbs.ca, HappiHerbs.ca. If you go under the parasite tab, I have a whole list of all of the different cravings that each type of parasite will give you. And this is based on Dr. Clark's work. And it's crazy, like onions, cantaloupe, peppermint, like all of these interesting foods that they can cause you to crave. And you can actually do an elimination of those foods to do a certain type of parasite cleanse. Again, I have that on my website, but you would never think those things, right? And so you do have to be mindful if you're getting these like strong cravings for things,
that maybe there's a reason there.
Right? And then of course, sugar is going to feed parasites, and dairy is going to feed the bacteria, aka pathogens, aka viruses, aka parasites, right? They all go hand in hand. And so if you have parasites or you're doing a parasite cleanse, you want to kind of reduce those foods such as sugar and dairy just to help your body out. And I think another thing that people miss, which I hear all the time people will do cleanses and they're like, "Oh, I did a cleanse and I got really constipated." And they're worried about doing it again. I'm like, "Well, were you taking activated charcoal?" And they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "What was the dose you were taking it at?" And it's always a high dose. And so whenever so on my website I have my parasite cleanse bundle, and then you can also just buy like the parasite cleanse or the activated charcoal, etc. separately. The dose that I suggest is very low. For an adult, I'm like 1 teaspoon with 8 ounces of water every other day. For a child, it's like 1/4 of a teaspoon in, a large amount of water every other day. Because if you're doing a parasite cleanse and then you're taking activated charcoal and you're not drinking it with a ton of water and you're not someone who drinks a lot of water to begin with, what do you think's going to happen? Right? It's like a toilet. Like if you poop in a toilet and there's no water in it and you try and flush it.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. And so it's so important that when we do parasite cleanses, make sure you are drinking so much water, tons and tons of water, so that you can flush. Lots of fruits, even in fruit juices, natural fruit juices, smoothies, things like that. Get everything going and flowing for yourself so that it can get out. So everything can get out. So I think that's something that people tend to miss and not understand.
Or overdo it, take a little too much with not enough water. And the water is truly really important for that process.
Well, it's so important. You don't want anything getting stuck in the body, right? You're going to be symptomatic otherwise, right? Because yes, the activated charcoal helps with the ammonia, the symptoms of the parasites, like exploding that gas that happens, that can help reduce those symptoms. But you need that water to flush it out, or else you're going to have all these dead bodies in your body. Gross.
Irritating things.
And, poop and whatever gases and things that these parasites are releasing as they're in your body and as they're dying, and they need to be moved out. So be really, really mindful of that. And then just going back to, parasites, they are always going to go to the weakest part of your body. So anytime someone has a weakness, which we all do, you want to not only focus on healing what that weakness is, but you want to focus on parasites too, because it really does go hand in hand. From, many doctors that I follow, which Dr. Clark is a big one. She has helped so many cancer patients heal, but, parasite cleansing was a big foundation in that healing, because if you have a weakness in your body, that is where it's going to go. And it's kind of like, I think the best example would be, a lot of the times when people find, cancer in their body or any sort of tumor, that is the body taking something that is not good, putting it in a trash can and tucking it away. And the reason why it has to put it in a trash can and tuck it away is because it is having an issue with getting it out of the body. So there's usually a toxic load that's happening within the body. Usually it starts with gut. You have a weak gut and it's not able to process all of the whatever, toxins that you're being exposed to. And then because of that, there's a weak liver and things are not detoxing properly and not flowing out of the body as they should. And so the body is so smart and loves you so much that it's not just going to release those toxins to you and, make you sick, that it takes it and it tucks it away somewhere for you until it can get rid of it later. And a lot of the times, when people find those things, that's the wake-up call. We need to do something because things are not functioning as they should. And so that's when you want to start, doing what you need to do. And everyone has their own method of doing that. And I got to be careful with what I say too. But ultimately, that is when you want to start doing a parasite cleanse and then working alongside a professional who's going to help your body to be able to get rid of that heavy load of toxins and to be able to detox properly. And then whatever other weakness that is, aligned there with, it could be hormonal, like wherever, you find that tumor or whatever it may be, whatever area that goes into, you want to treat that as well, whether that be balancing the hormones or whatever it may be, right?
Just to talk a little bit about the cancer side of parasites. It was in the news very recently, and it was kind of big news in the States that and I don't even think I can say the name of the drug, but they started to treat cancer in the US with Ivor.
Right, yeah.
Which is historically used as an anti-parasitic. Yeah. So they're starting to see some links because some of the research about linking parasites and cancer is not the most robust yet. It's kind of new and coming out.
Yeah.
But that was a big thing that happened just recently. And, there's alternatives to Ivor, the medicine.
Well, and the alternative is the 3 herbs,
yes.
The green black walnut hull,
yeah.
the cloves, and the wormwood, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Ivor is like the medical side of it, which can have side effects.
It's stronger and it's more to be used, in serious cases. But by using those 3 herbs a few times a year, you're doing preventative medicine. Yeah. You're stopping things before it happens or before it gets out of control where your body can't self-heal.
Yeah. You don't want to be using Ivor as like a preventative.
No.
That's dangerous.
No, that's last resort end stage, but that's why we're here doing a lot of talks about prevention.
Yeah, exactly. And even these top doctors like Dr. Clark doesn't even use Ivor. Like she uses those 3 herbs and has used that for those patients successfully. But it's about dosing, there's acute dosing, which is what I do. And then there's medicinal dosing, which if you were dealing with something that was serious, then you want to be looking at medicinal dosing. And I have that on my e-course. I actually just added that in under the parasite module, which you can find on my website. If you go to my e-course, there is a course called Acute Illness 101. And under the parasite module, I actually added the medicinal parasite cleanse that you can do at home yourself with all the instructions and all the dosing on how to do that safely under the guidelines of Dr. Clark, with links and everything so that, you're not left in the dark. But I do think, that is really interesting and really important and really missed. But I do think there is this wake up that's happening right now amongst a lot of different doctors and health professionals, and they're realizing, oh wow, like this is helping people, right? And it's not just with cancer, it's not just with tumors, it's with a lot of other types of illnesses as well, right? And again, on my website, I under parasites, I do have a list of what Dr. Clark lists as the different types of diseases and like the parasite associated with that disease. And so it's really interesting once you go down that rabbit hole, and
it is a journey.
It gets a little crazy. But I think it's something that a lot of us need to wake up to, because again, if we are doing this preventative work, then we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about the big illnesses and diseases, right? Because you don't want to get to that point, right? That's your body yelling for help. You don't want to have to go there. You'd rather prevent and take care of yourself by doing that, 3 times a year. And a lot of the times we think, oh yeah, I eat pumpkin seeds and I eat this and I eat that. But it's like, that's not enough. You need herbs that are going to kill parasites.
Yeah, that's good for the in-between.
Yep, exactly.
Right? That's good when you're already doing the parasite cleanses, you're eating good quality food, you're drinking good quality water, and then you're including those different things, pomegranate seeds, apricot seeds, pumpkin seeds, whatever it may be. Those are kind of in addition to the big things, which is the parasite cleanse.
Absolutely. And food plays a big role too, right? Like we were talking about, like letting everything flow, having lots of water. And I think we need to ultimately like change our mindset on how we eat. And we talk about that in the previous podcast, changing our mindset, because you don't want to just be eating whatever you want, eating all this junk food, all this fried food, but then you're like, oh, I'll do a parasite cleanse every 3 months. It's like,
Yeah, it's going to help you, but it's not the same benefit.
yeah, you're not going to benefit by it nearly as much as if you were eating healthy every single day, right? It still can help, absolutely, but you want to change your mindset and you want to think about, how you're eating and, the order of food and like, oh, is this going to ferment in my stomach? Is this going to rot in my stomach? If I eat this food and that food, is that going to sit and cause bacteria? Is this going to mess with the pH balance of my gut and now create a weaker, weaker stomach acid for parasites to be able to
Grab a hold inside your stomach.
right? Because when your stomach's at the pH that it needs to, and then you're eating foods that may even have it in it, your body's just going to burn it up. It's going to cycle it out. But if you have a weak gut, it's going to stick around.
Absolutely. It's going to get past that first offense.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to food will always be your medicine, and preventing is always going to be the best measure. Pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say, like, for part 2. I don't know if you want to add anything else in there. Unless you want to.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for part 2. We'll see you next time at Around the Kitchen Table. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or evening. God bless.